Hello everyone, welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. It's a big day, Sam. The prices are starting to trickle through. We've had some Arsenal prices. We're going to talk about
Arsenal prices.
Loads of Arsenal prices. Not the one that anyone wanted, not the Gabriel Jesus price, but there's some some interest in likes of Saka. Ben White is causing a bit of a stir, the price on him, and some of the other guys. So we will talk through those. I've got some tools from the Fantasy Football Scout members area where we can compare some of the players, see if there's any bargains in the Arsenal side. And yeah, if anyone in the chat wants to chat about other teams that they think are going to come today or other players and they want us to predict the price on those, drop those in as well. And we'll just have a general friendly bit of banter about what's going on. Because it's a fun day. It's a bit like Christmas, right?
Yeah, it's something like, when you wake up on your birthday and suddenly it's like, oh, here's a present. And you go, oh, exciting. And then when you get inside it, it's actually like, oh, actually, it's even more exciting than just opening the present because now I get to actually think about which of these players I want. And actually from Arsenal, there's quite a few.
I think it says a lot about the quality of presents Lee gets you if it feels like that. But anyway, moving on. So let's go through some of the prices that we've had already. Obviously, the big one coming in was Saka. He came in at 8 million, which I think was about what we all thought he would come in at. He was 6.5 last season. That's gone up to 8 this season. I mean, it's reflective of a brilliant season for him. 8 million though, that puts him in a different bracket now. He's not a budget midfielder. Arsenal have got some good fixtures. What do you reckon? Will you be going there start the season?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that I look at this. I mean, I guess it's hard, isn't it? Because you're just doing it on one team and one team's worth of prices. So you kind of look around and you go, I think that when we had the Arsenal fixtures, when we did that stream all those weeks ago, or when I did it with Johnny and we were talking about fixtures, you were kind of going, well, there's some certain teams that you want to target, and Arsenal were definitely high up on that list of teams that you would want to invest in. And then you get the prices this morning, and because we've got more than when you sort of go, oh, might it be price reveal time soon? And then when FPL tweeted this morning and said, would you like some prices? I was like, oh, maybe we're going to get one or two per club. Instead, we've got most of the Arsenal squad here. So now you can kind of go, well, there's a number of players in there that I think could be really good value for money. And because none of them are that expensive, you could in theory go treble up on Arsenal, and you could go with Saka and get somebody like Odegaard, as well as having a defender in there as well. And you've not spent a lot of budget. So that's why I can see myself going in on Arsenal to start the season.
Good, yeah. And I mean, I think this kind of price is indicative of a lot of, some of the other players around this bracket. I mean, we're going to see, I think last season we talked about the fact that we didn't really have type players. This season, I think we're going to see a lot of players falling into the 8 million bracket. We're going to have Saka, like Kulusevski, probably someone like Foden as well. Looking at Chelsea, I mean, Mount might go up to 8.5, something like that. But I think we're going to see a lot more players in that bracket, and they're a hard team to base your sort of transfers and things on, or your squad, because they kind of sit in that middle between the premium and the budget, and it means you've kind of either got to have more budget players or less premium players or something to be able to fit them in. So, I mean, I think Saka's original. I think the price is absolutely bang on. I think 8 million is exactly what
I do. I think 8's really fair.
Yeah, I think
it's a really fair price for Saka. I mean, go on.
I was going to say Arsenal's fixtures: Crystal Palace away and then Leicester at home. I mean, I'm not too enamoured by those. I think Palace away is obviously tough. Leicester, I'm expecting to be better next season. But then they have Bournemouth away and Fulham at home. So 2 promoted teams in 3 and 4. If Saka starts off well, if Arsenal start off well in those first 2 games, I think we're going to see a lot of investment for him.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that Arsenal started the season last year really badly. They will want to get away from that. I mean, the loss to Brentford on the opening day of the season, and then it went really rapidly downhill for a while, didn't it, for them? And I think that this season they will want to improve. So far, the prices. I look at them and I think Crystal Palace, Arsenal should be able to beat Crystal Palace on the opening day of the season. There should be goals in that game. And when you look at the Arsenal team, if there's going to be goals, then Saka is surely going to be part of that, as we saw throughout most of the 21-22 season. You know, Saka was a fantastic asset for a large chunk of last season, and I think that will continue into this year. So at 8 million, he's sitting in that price point where I think, you know, when you're setting up your budget and your team for game week 1, you're going to want people in and around that position, because they're the ones that you're going to be moving around the most probably over the course of the season. And I think he might be one to go with, because those Arsenal fixtures, all right, it's Leicester in game week 2, but we never really know what we're going to get with Leicester. They can be really good and they can be really terrible. It's kind of remains to see, I guess, how they go in the transfer window, who, if anybody, they sign, who stays, who goes, and then, of course, what their pre-season form looks like. But I can see Arsenal starting this season really well, and going in with Saka now means that if you do then want to move to any of the Arsenal players, then it's a downgrade in terms of budget rather than trying to find additional money. Like if suddenly Odegaard is the one that you really want to own, then you're going to save yourself, 1.5 million rather than having to find 1.5 million.
Yep. I think there's two kind of key bits of information that we've got now. One that we have and one that we don't have, actually. I mean, firstly, it's who gets pens for Arsenal, because Saka was taking them a bit last season, and then Martinelli took the one on the final day. And, you know, we're going to talk about Martinelli in a bit, but if he's cheaper and on pens and starting, then that might be a bit of money you can save. I think one big bonus for Saka, though, is this Richarlison signing for Spurs, because I think that massively dents Kulusevski's appeal, who is going to be around, I imagine, the same price as Saka, 7.5, 8 million, something like that. I mean, surely he gets less game time now, because it's going to be a front three of Son, Richarlison and Kane, right?
I don't see it. So we sort of had this conversation a little bit this morning because I'm not the Spurs fan in me, is not 100% sold. I find this one a really interesting transfer that we've made. I don't think it affects Kulusevski's minutes too much. I think, you know, generally speaking, they play in different areas. Kulusevski can also play in that wing-back role, which we never really saw that much of him do last season. So with the way that Conte likes to play the wing-back system, he could move around and play in different positions. I think Richarlison could, you know, we could see him. Conte likes to have a couple of players per position. He likes to move players around. He likes to rotate. He likes to have flexibility, particularly around, you know, bigger competitions, you know, the Champions League, the FA Cup, the League Cup, when they all come into force. Once the season's underway, then that's going to have an impact. So I'm not sure. I think for me, Saka had a consistently good season last season. Even when Arsenal weren't great, he was still great. And that's what makes me kind of think he will probably be one of the players that I'm going to want to own. And he could be a player that, if you don't own early on, might be a struggle to get to, because like you say, if there's other players that come in and around, and there will be other players that come in the game around 8 million, and you go with one of them instead, and then they start performing as well, it's going to be hard to have a lot of those kind of players in the middle of the park.
But I mean, my point on Kulusevski is exactly what you said, because if we're not sure how Spurs are going to set up, we're thinking that Kulusevski could be pushed back to a wing back role or something, or that his place maybe isn't okay. Maybe he still plays a lot of minutes, but maybe there is more subs because they've got more options. Saka is on the level of like Son and Kane, right, in terms of minutes. There's no way Arteta's going to experiment with Saka. He is that right-sided forward player. So for 8 million, I think now if it was a straight up swap between Kulusevski and Saka, and they're both playing every game in their favourite position, I think I'd still go Kulusevski. But now I think there's just enough doubt around that to make Saka the more appealing pick. So I think if I'm going to pick one now, I'd go for Saka. He might actually end up in my game week 1 side, which I hadn't really thought about before.
Yeah, see, I mean, I must admit, when that tweet came out this morning, and because he was obviously the first on the little video that played through, I was like, yeah, loving that as a price. That's really nice. Like, I think I sort of expected that they might price him, because I was expecting him to be the most expensive Arsenal player. I wondered if they might push him up a little bit further to have, I mean, I know that obviously we've potentially got the Jesus carrot to add into this as well, but leaving him aside for now, because Saka is the most expensive one in that Arsenal team that we've seen so far, I wondered whether we might get a little bit more on his price. But I think 8 is really fair. I think it's a really nice price for the Premier League. And I think it's made him a player that I've now gone, yeah, I was already going to target Arsenal anyway, because I like the fixtures the way that they are to start the season. But now I'm looking at that price thinking I can see me having definitely Saka probably at least one of the defenders as well.
Saka will 100% be a factor for us. That's what we want. That's what we want. We want the prices to come in and make us consider players. If they priced him at 9 or something, which I'm not saying they would have done, but if they had done, then I think no one's really going there. But at 8, I think we're going to see some investment. Just so everyone knows, I'm playing around with a new subscribe graphic. I haven't quite nailed it yet. So if you see some weird things flashing on the screen, that's why. There's also some new lobby music as well. So if you liked that, let me know in the comments or in the chat. Too. Actually, let's try the subscribe graphic again, see if that works.
Oh gosh.
Oh god.
The whole stream breaks.
It didn't work. It's fine.
It didn't work.
If you're enjoying the stream, like and subscribe. There we go. I will sort that graphic out. It's new. Okay, next is Odegaard. Then Odegaard's coming at 6.5. Which is, a million price hike on him. He was a funny player last season because he was brilliant for Arsenal, but never really I think some people had him and did quite well from him in spells, but he was kind of always the assister of the assister, wasn't he? Always playing quite deep, creating lots of chances. They didn't have anyone to convert them because Lacazette was up front, bless him. You got to think they're going to be a bit more potent next season. With Martinelli coming, having such a good strong end of the season, with Jesus coming in as well. They've got options now too. So 6.5 for Odegaard. What do you reckon?
I think it's quite a nice price again. I don't think it's. Would I have been surprised to see him at 6? No. Would I have been happier with him at 6? Probably. But I don't think it's too much money for Odegaard. Like you said, in spurts last season, he was excellent. And had Arsenal had somebody that finished the ball really well for the majority of last season, I think Odegaard would have scored a hell of a lot more points than he did during 21-22. So at 6.5, with a proper forward up top, finishing the crosses that he's putting in, and by proper I mean a forward that's actually interested in being there and wants to score goals and be a regular part of the starting 11, then I think Odegaard could be a really nice cheap option. I don't think he's going to be somebody that you'll invest in for game week 1. For me, Saka is somebody you can invest in for game week 1, but Odegaard is probably somebody that I would wait till game week 3 and see how he plays and see how Arsenal play through the Crystal Palace and Leicester games. And then depending upon the kind of areas of the pitch that he's playing in, the crosses that he's putting in, whether those crosses are being finished and are going well for Arsenal, then he could be a really good option in at 6.5 at that moment, because then the Arsenal pictures are nice for a period after that, as you say, with the newly promoted side. So for me, Odegaard, nice price. Wait until game week 3. Let's see how Arsenal start.
Yep, it's going to be interesting with Vieira as well, because obviously Vieira and Jesus are going to shake up that kind of front line a bit, and Vieira's an 8, like a kind of outright 8. Odegaard can also play in that, can also play in the 10. I think they're both going to switch around quite a lot and create this kind of fluid system where one comes forward, one drops, and one goes forward. That kind of thing. So I kind of don't really know if that. I still look at Odegaard and think if he's going to be playing deep and spraying passes around, he's not that kind of box-to-box midfield that we've seen from like Ramsdale or Toure in that kind of 8 role. So I don't think Odegaard is going to be a factor for us at the moment, but we'll just see how his position changes and see what he does in the season. A really talented player, and if he can get a player sort of converting his chances that he creates, then maybe will be a factor. But he's a wait and see for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think so.
Another position then, and I got the thing working. Look, here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, is it working? Oh,
yeah, look at that. Beautiful.
Oh, some tech is working.
It's quite cool. It's quite cool that little describing. We should have had one.
So pleased at yourself, aren't you?
I am pleased at myself. Yeah. I'm glad I got that working. When you get things working live on the stream, it does feel a bit more special, because like you say, you could just break the whole thing.
A bit like I did during the
exactly. Ramsdale's next, so he's had a price hike. I think we're all expecting that. I mean, he was absolutely incredible for 2/3 of the season, and then absolutely awful, the worst goalkeeper you could have owned for the last part of the season.
Yes, he was.
He has, but he's gone up to 5 million. Arsenal Europe now. Oh, I don't know. And we're going to talk about some of their cheaper defenders as well. I can't see myself paying 5 million for Ramsdale. I never like paying 5 million for a goalkeeper anyway. I think it's probably the right price for him.
Cheapskate.
Yeah, well, I am. Yeah, I mean, well, it's either 2 4-5s, isn't it? Or you just go with 4-5 and a 4. As soon as you start paying 5-5-5, it's you always whenever you're like 0.5 short of a transfer, you always
it's the goalie.
I wish that goalkeeper was a little bit cheaper.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I agree with you actually fully on this one. I think Ramsdale, had he been 4-5, then there's a conversation to be had. But because of the way that Tomiyasu and White have been priced, and actually when you look at even the players that have been priced alongside Ramsdale in that 5 million bracket, so Gabriel, Tierney, for example, you look at them and you go, well, there's some, particularly with Tierney, you've got some attacking threats that you can get out of those players. So would I rather have Ramsdale at 5 or one of the defenders at 5, knowing that the defenders could give you something more? I mean, yes, okay, Ramsdale could get save points and that sort of thing, but I don't think he's worth it at 5. I think I'd rather go with the defenders, knowing that I can either save a little bit of money there and go with one of the 4.5 ones, or I can spend the same and have some additional threat coming from them.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. It's a shame when you get a price hike for a goalkeeper like this, but at the same time, I don't feel as strong. Like you look at like Martinez last season when he went up to like 5-5, or Pope at 5-5. I would expect those both to come down to 5 as well, because then they didn't hit those like 180, 190 point seasons. So you're comparing Ramsdale to quite a good crop of 5 million goalkeepers as well.
As you said, he did have a good season. I forget the last few weeks when he wasn't very good, but for the majority of last season, he was really good. So he deserves to go up in price on that basis that, you know, he performed well. Yeah. There was a lot of FPL points. There was a lot of save points. And I think had he gone in at 4.5, he would have been one of those players where everyone would have gone, oh, that's a bargain, I'm going there. And it kind of would have made everybody start the season with Ramsdale as one of their goalkeepers, whereas now he's 5. You're going to have to give it some serious thought as to whether it's worth the additional 5.5 on top of whoever comes in the game at 4.5, because there will be some 4.5 goalkeepers. There always is. So it's just working out whether it's worth it. And I don't think he's worth it, particularly when you compare him to his defensive teammates.
No. And I think you can't price Ramsdale the same price as like the Nottingham Forest goalkeeper. Like it's an Arsenal goalkeeper at the end of the day. So you can't. He came in at 4.5 last season because he was expected to be back up to Leno, and I think they probably got that. They probably got that wrong because it
was nice though, wasn't it?
It was nice. Yeah, except for the people that didn't own him and got burnt by him every week. I think there'll be another 4-5 goalkeeper that emerges. There always is. One. So I think Ramsdale's probably on the shelf. Right.
Poor old Ramsdale.
So we've got some other players here, and there's some interesting ones here. I'll just read through them and then we can discuss some of them. So in defence, you've got Tomiyasu and Ben White, both at 4-5. I was definitely expecting them to go up to 5. I think White at 4-5 is could be a steal again. Gabriel's at 5, more goal threat than Ben White, but obviously 0.5 more. And you've got Tierney at 5. Everyone either gets Tierney and he gets injured and you get really annoyed, or everyone really wants Tierney and he does really well. Does anyone actually own Tierney and he does well for them? I very rarely see that. He seems to deliver at times when you don't expect it, and doesn't, and gets injured when you really need him. Another couple of interesting ones here. I mean, Martinelli, I think, is the most interesting one. He's at 6 million, so not a huge price hike for him at all. I would definitely have thought he'd come in at the same price as at least Odegaard at 6.5. I mean, that's 2 million savings on Saka, for example. Again, we're not entirely sure how his role's gonna change. I think he starts for Arsenal. Not a fan?
I don't know. You see, because I am a fan. Look, I think he's good. He's a good, talented player. I just think that you just don't really know, do you, with Martinelli? Like, is he going to definitely start? Could he get benched sometimes? How in the new system is he going to work? Where are they going to put him? Is there going to be some rotation around in those players. Like it's all a bit up in the air with Arsenal. That's how I feel about Arsenal at the moment. It's all a bit up in the air with those attacking players. And so for me, Saka's worth the extra 2 million over him. I think he's worth paying extra for. And it goes back to, I guess, what we were just saying about the defence. So I think you're right about Tierney. Like I can see me putting Tierney in my first draft, when the game eventually goes live, I can see me going, right, Tierney, and then getting to the end of building that squad and going, I'm 0.5 short, Tierney becomes white. And I think that will happen for a lot of managers over the course of the season. Once the game is live, before game week 1 happens, I think there'll probably be a lot of players trying to work out how you go with slightly more attacking Arsenal defenders only to end up with Ben White, because at 4.5, that is perfect, because it's perfect. You can bench him in the harder games, you can play him in all the nice games. 4.5 is a lovely price for him. But I think with the forwards, it's kind of the other way around. Like I could see me kind of thinking, well, could I save some money going with Martinelli instead of Saka? And yes, you can, I suppose, but I just think Saka over the course of the season will be worth the additional money. And so if you're going to double up, then fine. But if you're going to go with just one or the other, then for me, it would be Saka, even at 2 million more.
Yeah, I mean, as Jack Ambler says in the chat, I think what they've done is they've priced Saka at 8 because they know he's going to start, and then they've kind of just put everyone else in the kind of 6-5 bracket because we're just not sure who's going to play.
Because Smith Rowe's are the same, right? And if Smith Rowe suddenly gets game starts,
exactly.
I actually owned him for a large percentage of last season, and he was great at the points where I owned him because he just kept coming off the bench and scoring goals. And I was like, well, this is nice because, even if you don't play, at that price, I don't really mind too much if you don't get loads of game time. But if you want to come off the bench and score a goal, fine. But so there's this kind of situation at Arsenal where who from these midfielders is going to play? How are they going to play? Are they going to be regularly starting? So all of that stuff, I think, just needs a pre-season watch, I guess, to see what we're getting consistently out of Arteta and Arsenal. But
it's also a different landscape next season with the 5 subs.
Yes,
because in some ways it makes someone like Martinelli maybe a bit more attractive because you think he's probably almost certainly going to get minutes in every game, whether he starts or not. I mean, he might get subbed off at 60, he might come on and get 30, but I would expect him probably to play more next season than he did last season. But at the same time, you're then having a player in who is a rotation risk. It's really hard to judge. I think the first few weeks, seeing how managers use the subs is going to be really interesting. But I think that's where Saka comes in because he's just going to play pretty much every game.
Yeah, and obviously this season Arsenal have got some European football as well, which we didn't have to contend with last season from them. So in terms of rotation and stuff around other competitions, there was less of it. Now this season, obviously, they've got the Europa League, plus they've got the 5 sub rules. So we could see more shifting around in these positions. But what you've said about Saka for me is 100% accurate. He's going to be the one that starts and therefore is worth the additional money. You might get 50 minutes, 40 minutes out of Martinelli in some games and then 60, 70 in another, depending upon what else is happening that week when the European competitions start and all of that good stuff. So worth the extra for Saka for me. But if you do want to double up, then there's enough value in the other Arsenal midfielders that you could have 2 of them.
Yep, absolutely. Just before we move on to the defence, I think we'll talk about. This is from Fantasy Football Scout. This is the members area. This is a comparison tool. So I love the comparison tool. It's my favourite feature on Scout, and I use it basically exactly for moments like this when you're looking at players like Saka, Odegaard, and Martinelli, and you're trying to decide which ones to bring in and whether you can make the kind of the savings on Martinelli. So this is from the members area. Just a reminder that you can sign up to Scout at the moment for last season's prices and lock that price in. There's only a week or so left before you can do that, and then the price is going up. So if you are interested in any of these tools and sort of becoming a better FPL manager next season, then go over to the site, fantasyfootballscout.co.uk, and sign up. You can do things like this. So here I've just put in Saka, Odegaard, and Martinelli. At the moment, I'm just looking at all matches. I'm not looking at averages, so this is just their basic stats across the season. So you've got a chart here which kind of shows you in visual terms who's the best. You can see Odegaard here for things like baseline bonus and chance created is massively higher. Look at Martinelli's big chances though, like superior to the others. But then you can look at Saka and he's just superior basically everything else. Looking at the kind of the key fantasy stats, time played here. So obviously Saka played the most minutes. He featured in every game, all 38. Odegaard featured in 36. Martinelli still featured in 29 games though, and I only really saw him breaking into the team well, halfway through the season or a bit less than that. But when he was featuring a little bit before that, he had the injury, came back, and he featured. It wasn't like he was playing 0 minutes. He was either starting pretty much every game or he was sort of coming off the bench. So again, it'll be interesting to see how these kind of minutes change next season. But I mean, if you look at Saka, if you're just looking purely across the season, Saka just wins on everything. He scored the most goals, he had the most assists. He was kind of the main player. If you feature that by expected goals as well, Saka's highest, 11.94. If you're looking at just purely over the season, he just absolutely dwarfs both of them. However, if you switch it to averages per appearance, it's actually a lot closer between Saka and Martinelli. Odegaard massively falls down on this. He's, if you're comparing these three in averages per appearance across pretty much every metric, Odegaard, it just isn't the one that you should be looking at. But if you look at XG per appearance, Saka and Martinelli have got exactly the same, 0.3. Per game, non-penalty 0.3, exactly the same. If you're looking at expected assists, Saka's 0.2, Martinelli's 0.1, not a huge amount in it. But then the key one here for me is minutes per XGI. So this is the amount of time it's taken them to basically theoretically get an attacking return in some description. Saka's 159.5, Martinelli is 160.9. So there is barely anything in it. When they're both on the pitch, they're actually both expected to get something from the game at the same rate. Now, you could argue there's different things in that, Martinelli, if he's coming on late and he's playing against tired players and all that kind of stuff. But for me, if Saka and Martinelli are both starting for Arsenal every game for 2 million difference, I'm picking Martinelli. Exactly.
If they're both starting. And I think that's the thing, is that Saka, you can start with. If you want to, you can start with, and this is where, go right back to the beginning of the stream, this is kind of where my thinking was when I saw these prices, is I can start game week 1 with Saka in my team, knowing that if we get 2-3 game weeks in and Martinelli has started every single game and is consistently playing, or Smith Rowe is consistently playing every game, it's an easy switch down to them. But if you start the season with Martinelli and he doesn't start every game, you're quickly going to be thinking, how do I find 1.5 million? 2 million. How do I find 2 million? So to get from him to Saka? Or if you start with Odegaard, how do I find 1.5 million to get from him to Saka? And that's a really difficult conversation. So unless you're going to wild card. So in my mind, the safe thing to do with Arsenal, because you are going to want to invest in Arsenal, the prices are nice, the fixtures are nice, you're going to want to have Arsenal win. So you either wait until game week 3, like you say, when we've got past the games against Palace and Leicester, or you invest in the most expensive in Saka, knowing you can change and come down and free up budget that way.
Yep, I absolutely agree with everything. The only sort of counter argument to that is we're looking at players like Haaland, Salah. We're looking at Cancelo, Trent.
Well, they're all going to be priced at 3 million. Don't worry about it.
It'll be fine. But what I'm saying is, though, we are going to need to find ways of creating the budget. And if we see pre-season, Martinelli comes in absolutely smashing it. If he's scoring a goal a game in pre-season, and Arteta's like, oh my god, he's literally on fire. He could be someone that I think people could go to. He might have the pens as well. I feel, I was a big fan of his last season. I think he could be a factor for us. I think you're completely right. Ideally, you'd want to wait and see. But I think at 6 million, he's a carrot, right? He's a little bit tempting. And I think when you look at the stats, and they're this close between him and Saka at 2 million more. It was like 1 million. It was only 1 million, 0.5 by the end of last season. So
it's difficult though, isn't it? Because I think, it's not like the Arsenal defenders are going to cost you that much. So you might find that in your team you've got the budget for Saka, and if you have, then you go in there, aren't you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Money no object. You're picking Salah 100%, but Saka and Salah.
I mean, you're picking Salah as well.
Salah sides for us. That'd be a good one. Yep.
Yeah. I don't know if the Liverpool fans would be that thrilled.
No, they probably wouldn't. No. I bet Arteta would be.
I bet he would.
So just two of the other players to mention. I mean, Vieira. We talked a little bit about him. He's an unknown. I mean, he's 6 million, for example. We don't really know what his position is gonna be, how
Nope.
advanced he's gonna play. Is a great signing. I think cost him a lot of money. Definitely going to start, but he's definitely wait and see for me. And you got Nketiah at 7. I think Nketiah at 7 would have been an absolute lock-in in pretty much everyone's team. Obviously now Gabriel Jesus is coming in, and we don't know what he's going to be priced at. What do you reckon that's going to be? It's probably going to be about a 9.95 for Jesus, right?
It has to be, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it has to be.
They can't push him to 10. I don't think they can make him less than 9. 9. I reckon 9 would be a good price for him. I think that would be tempting.
It definitely would be tempting. It would definitely be tempting.
9.5 would be quite a lot, wouldn't it? I don't know if I'd pay 9.5 for him.
The thing is, it's going to be the Arsenal starting forward. Like, this is the other thing that you kind of.
Yeah, but I had Lacazette last season. I can guarantee.
How much was he at the start of last season?
He was
Lacazette.
Was he 8.5?
Was he? Gosh, that feels like a long time.
9?
Although actually, having said
9?
that, Aubameyang was still there, wasn't he? So there was all. It's difficult, isn't it? I don't know.
He wasn't cheap. He wasn't like 7.5 or 8 or something like that. He was
the thing is with Jesus, right? He is a phenomenal player, like a really quality goal scorer. He just didn't get enough game time at City to make him a really attractive FPL option, and that was always my issue there. Every time I watch Jesus play when he's regularly playing, I'd be like, yes, I want you.
Really?
And then he wouldn't play again and I'd be like, oh, it's so frustrating, because I feel like if you were playing 90 minutes every week, I would want to be invested in you. Now, okay, in part that's potentially because Manchester City are Manchester City in terms of the quality of the players that he's got around them and the chances being created. But I look at this Arsenal team and think, with players like Saka and Odegaard and Martinelli around him, there's going to be plenty of good opportunities created for him. So he's going to be worth investing in. Now, I don't think he's going to be, I would hope he's not going to be up there with the real premium, like most expensive forwards in the game. But equally, I think he's got to be, if Nketiah is 7, it's got to be worth at least 2 million more.
Yeah,
it's got to be.
A lot of people in the chat. You've got Jack Ambler, you've got Steve Matthews, Stephen Doherty, FPL Harry, all saying 8.5 for Jesus.
Well, if he's 8.5, I'll be delighted.
If Jesus comes in at 8.5, if he comes in at 8.5, I think there's a strong argument to have him over Saka.
Yes, totally.
I really do.
I do.
I'm not sure about his finishing ability, though. You're a lot more confident in it than I am. I think I've read that he had one of the worst conversion rates.
But you're going to be like that when you don't play regularly.
Yeah, true. I mean, we saw at the beginning of last season, he was playing on the right wing, wasn't he? And absolutely on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's a funny transfer because Arsenal underperformed their XG, I think, more than any other team, or at least right down the bottom of the league last season. Yep. And then they've signed a striker who constantly underperforms on his XG. So it's kind of like the worst match ever. But he's obviously a great player. He's in the Brazil squad. He's been playing for City for years. I think whatever way you look at it, it's a good signing for them.
Yeah, I do.
It's so versatile as well.
I think the guys in the chat are right. I mean, I think he's 8.5. That will be a player that I'll just go, yes, please. Yeah. Because at 8.5, it feels like it could be a really nice option.
If he's 8.5, I think he's in. I think he's in.
I don't see it. I can't see him being 8.5. I mean, I hope I'm wrong.
I think 9 minimum.
I think so. I think he'll be 9, maybe 9.5.
Yeah, so do I. We'll go with 9 as a kind of average.
We'll go in the middle.
I wouldn't be surprised if he was 9.5. Let's just quickly touch on the defence then. So White and Tomiyasu, they're the big names at 4-5. Mm-hmm. I mean, Tomiyasu's had the injury problems. Yeah. Ben White is just going to be, he's just one of those 4.5 defenders who's just going to be really safe, right? He's going to be in so many teams.
It's perfect, isn't it? Perfect.
Great fixtures for Arsenal, 4-5. Yeah, I think unless there's some 4 million defenders that emerge, I think White's going to be like 50% owned in maybe more.
Even if there are some 4 million defenders, I still think White is going to be up there with the 40-50% ownerships, because at 4.5 with nice fixtures for Arsenal, it's a really cheap way into the Arsenal team. You don't mind benching him in the difficult fixtures. He is a solid, reliable defender pick in FPL.
Yep, completely agree. Tomiyasu's a bit more exciting. I mean, obviously,
he's a bit more
back, a bit more attacking. Not really. I mean, the Cedric was there. Is he still there? I can't even remember. Is he gone? He came in and did all right for a bit, but Tomiyasu's first choice in that.
Yeah.
I think if he has a pre-season and we see that he's over the injury thing and and back, then I'd probably go for Tomiyasu over White just for a little bit of excitement in my life, because White is as boring as it gets, right? He is the most boring player in FPL. He'll play, he'll get you 6 points.
You can't say he's the most boring
Well,
player.
he is. He is. I would say Ben White is the most boring player in FPL because he will never score you a goal.
Oh man alive, this is getting cropped. This is going to be everywhere. When Ben White scores a hat-trick this season,
Game week 1.
you are going to get absolute pelters because everyone's going to just be like, as said, White is the most boring.
I was at the Emirates last season when Arsenal played Palace, and Arsenal got a last-minute equaliser, and everyone was going mad because they thought it was a Ben White assist, and then he just didn't get it. And it was like, yeah, he's literally immune from attacking returns. It's never going to happen. So I think Tomiyasu at 4-5, he is the one to go for. If they're both playing, he's the one to go for. But White gives you that kind of security.
Feels nice and safe, doesn't it? It's like a nice comfort blanket.
He is a comfort blanket.
Ben White.
That's exactly how I describe him. Yep. So it's 11 o'clock. Is there any more prices?
Is it 11 o'clock already?
It's 11 o'clock.
What have we been talking about?
Do you reckon we'll get any more today? Other people probably think we're like in the know and we know exactly when the game's going to launch and everything. I haven't got a clue.
I mean, to be honest, I'm quite happy with this. I just spend my whole day looking at Arsenal players, thanks.
Should we do an 8-hour stream like Chris did last season?
What, just talking about Ben White?
Just talking about Ben White. Yeah. I think we'll call it there. What we'll do is, I imagine they're going to release some more today. I don't know, but they've done one now. Maybe they'll do a couple more. Will it be alphabetical? Will it be like... But you pointed out it should have been Bournemouth first if they did alphabetical because they're AFC Bournemouth. So maybe we'll get Bournemouth next. Maybe we'll get Villa.
Arsenal no longer top of the league. That's what our Spurs fans cling to, you see.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, like that. You must have been well happy when they got promoted.
I was delighted. I was cheering Bournemouth all the way.
so petty. So petty.
It's so childish as well, isn't it? It's so childish.
Yep. Cool. So we'll call it there. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll do another one of these a bit later on if there's been some more prices and talk about those. But yeah, we're expecting FPL to launch at some point. It's now July, so it could be any day now. So keep your eye on.
It's July.
Yeah, keep your eye on Scout. Have a look at the. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel as well. If you're interested in things like transfers, head over to Scout and you can check out all the stuff Neil's doing over there. Articles on teams and promoted teams and players and transfer rumours and all that kind of stuff. Head over to FF Community as well, where Sam and her crew are writing some brilliant articles over there. But yeah, we'll see you again soon for the next video when we've got some more prices, hopefully.
Bye, guys.